This week on LTC News, taking advantage of the sun.
Solar panels are producing all the electricity, and then you're using it to heat and cool your home, and it's making Lowell a sustainable city.
It's quilt season in Lowell.
The work involved, the talent involved, it's very similar to painting a work of art.
And dedicated volunteers keeping our canals clean.
And these canals were they were filthy.
Stay with us. Welcome to LTC News. I'm your news anchor, Alanna Flood. From the early days of the mills in Lowell, right on up through recent years, people regularly dumped trash into the 5.5 miles of canals running through downtown. In the 60s and 70s, other cities were filling in their canals, an idea that was briefly considered here prior to the establishment of the Lowell National Historical Park. In 2004, a group of volunteers partnered with the park to clean up the refuse thrown into our inner-city waterways.
I did a lot of walking around, and these canals were they were filthy, and all the land around them. And we've taken literally tons of material out of these canals that hadn't been touched in decades and decades. Bicycles, mattresses, shopping carts. This is a National Historical Park, and it should in fact be a World Heritage Site. There's 5.5 miles of canals here, which is more than here than there are in Venice. And it's made a difference.
It's made a big difference. Thanks to their efforts, there's a lot less trash to recover these days, so the group can spend more time removing invasive plants from the canal banks.
So now the canals are much cleaner. It's sort of like the broken windows effect. If you fix a window in the apartment, it kind of spreads. So people take a little bit more pride in their community, more in their neighborhood, and Lowell has done that. Thanks to a lot of people, Jim, and our volunteers we've had Boy Scout groups, kids from Lowell High School, UMass Lowell volunteers. It's all volunteer work. In fact, we're on the board, and we're the guys out here that literally do all this work.
We even get letters, sometimes thanks from the State Department, all the way up to Washington.
10 years ago, the Lowell Canal Waters Cleaners Group was recognized as the top national park volunteer group in the country. Their cleanups take place on the third Saturday of the month, April through October. Follow their Facebook page for details. The 32nd annual Lowell Folk Festival has come and gone, and this year, the great weather helped to make it a big success. During the last weekend in July, downtown was packed. LTC broadcast live for 2 days of the festival in a collaborative effort between Chelmsford Telemedia, which captured the boarding house park stage, Drake at Access Television, which covered JFK Plaza, and our own LTC crew at the Market Street stage and in studio. Art, dance, food, and music from around the world. Let's take a look back.
How many people do you think is attending the festival?
There's a bit of a formula, but it's not an exact science, but it's well over 100,000, I think, over the 3 days.
Most of the drums are made out of barrels, 55-gallon steel barrels, it's an alloy steel.
Can you tell us who inspired you to do this kind of things?
Yes, my father. My father's generation was the generation that actually created the musical instrument, the steel drum.
smells delicious. I just came to the right spot right here. What's your name, my friend? Raymond? Raymond, what do we got right here today, bro? Falafel. Falafel! It's a vegetarian-based, deep-fried. It tastes better than steak. So that's what I've been smelling all around here. It's made out of chickpeas and fava beans and some Middle Eastern seasoning and parsley, garlic, all the good stuff.
They see all parts of the world represented in Lowell. You know, like we talked about the food and the dance. And so this is the type of image you want.
This is very similar to the way that the Shakers made their baskets. They standardized sizes and the shapes. So a gentleman working in the shop could make all the wooden accessories, the handle, the rim, and the sisters could do all the weaving.
What you cooking up today?
We've got beef, we've got chicken, this is pork and chicken going on these grills.
That's what I've been smelling all the way down the street.
Yeah, you know it.
Everybody's coming over to you. You got the best stuff, long line.
People get confused sometimes with the word folk festival, you know, is it like Newport or do you have contemporary? But really it's all about tradition. And for us, the National Park Service is involved because we are charged with interpreting the cultural heritage of all of the diverse communities of Lowell. So you can hear music from around the world.
Gracias! The Southeast Asian Water Festival is coming up on August 18th at the Sampis Pavilion, and LTC will be there covering the action. Solarize Lowell will help residents install solar power at their homes. The program, a joint project of the Massachusetts Clean Energy Center, the Massachusetts Department of Energy, and the City of Lowell, was launched at City Hall on July 30th.
I'm very excited that we have been able to launch our Solarize Mass Plus program in Lowell. This is a program that is incentivized by the state. It's a grant program, and it's to really make it a lot faster, cheaper, and easier for people who want to do the right thing, like install solar panels or look into air source heat pumps to help save on energy, to be able to do that in a way where you have vetted contractors, you have state support, and we just really think by having this in Lowell and having all of the resources behind us that we'll be able to move closer to our renewable energy goals and really help educate and encourage our residents and businesses to go solar.
So what we do is we vet the solar panel installers and air source heat pump installers. So we're going through an interview process right now to make sure that the Lowell residents are getting the best quality product and the best price. So it's kind of like a group discount that we're offering to get the best price on the solar panels and the heat pumps. And Mass CEC is really helping us use the, or communicate the incentives that the state is now offering. So it's a really great way to educate residents, kind of like rebates or incentives that are available to them. So we're hoping to get the payback period down to as short as, 4 or 5 years, where after 5 years, it's just all above the bottom line money that you're seeing for savings on your electricity bill.
So we're really excited to be able to apply for the plus portion of the Solarize Mass program. This was something that they just piloted a couple of years ago, where you can add a complementary technology to the solar. And air source heat pumps, we believe, are a really exciting thing for the future.
An air source heat pump, it's like a refrigerator in reverse. No matter how cold the air is, there's always heat in the air that can be pulled out of the air and then used to heat your home. Especially if you use the energy from your solar array to run your air source heat pump.
A lot of my discussions and attendance of statewide energy efficiency meetings, they think there's a lot of potential in the air source heat pumps, particularly for those that have high-cost heating fuels like oil, propane, or electric resistance heat. And we think that it's a way that we can continue to electrify our heating resources and to be able, particularly with those high-cost heating sources, for people to get less expensive cooling for their units, less expensive heating for their units, and really move us again towards a more renewable, sustainable future.
What we're doing is we're hoping that Lowell residents will really adopt solar panels on their house and air source heat pumps. A lot of people don't even know what they are. And paired with the solar panels, it's awesome because the solar panels are producing all the electricity, and then you're using it to heat and cool your home. And it's making Lowell a sustainable city. So we're producing more renewable energy. We're decreasing our reliance on fossil fuels. So it's a really good way to kind of environmentally affect the planet for, generations to come, which is kind of a main driver for this program too.
For more information about Solarize Lowell, visit them at solarizelowell.com. Historically, a huge biennial quilt festival was held in Lowell, either at the Tsongas Arena or the auditorium. That no longer happens, but the end of the summer remains quilt season in Lowell. Along with the New England Quilt Museum, the downtown institution devoted to the conservation and exhibition of traditional art quilts. Several downtown galleries are currently exhibiting a beautiful array of art quilts and textile art.
And our theme is the Japanese borrowed stitch, and that's a traditional Japanese stitch which they used to patch quilts and also patch clothing back when the peasants didn't have extra fabric. I think quilts are important as an art form because I'm amazed that they can create the art and then stitch it together so neatly. So it's kind of like two art forms in one.
This year at the Whistler House Museum of Art, the theme is Interplay, Fiber, and Art Quilts. We are thrilled to have this exhibition from quilts from all over the world. It amazes me the number of submissions we have and the quality of the quilts that we have here at the Whistler House Museum of Art.
There's a real personal vibe that comes off of a quilt because it's been through someone's hands so many times as they're making it. But I think we're so familiar with quilts. It's something that we all know. So to see someone make something out of it, it kind of attracts us.
Quilting has been long known as women's work, and as such, quilts haven't always been considered art. But a stroll through the downtown galleries would turn any skeptic into an art quilt aficionado.
It's a major battle to get people to pay attention to quilts as art. And if I see one more article that starts, "These are not your grandmother's quilts," I will probably scream, tear my hair, because quilts have been used for political statements back to the 1830s. It's not a new thing.
It's like everything else. If you don't know it, you don't respect it or understand it. I believe it is basically because the work involved, the talent involved, it's very similar to painting a work of art.
When artists take up the brush or take up the quilting needle, it's the same. It's the same. It's their medium. It's their message they're getting out.
While many of our current art quilters are classically trained and have chosen fiber for their paint or for their sculptural medium, many women and men come to art quilting through the love of fabric. They start as traditional quilters, they find they have a real feel for color or for form, and all of a sudden they're not making quilts for the beds anymore. They've discovered they're artists.
Because of this show, we cater to a different type of art audience, which is wonderful for Lowell. And so we're thrilled to be a part of it.
Well, it helps out all the galleries because when people come to see one quilt exhibit, while they're here, they'll go to all the venues. So it's great for us to all cross-promote each other.
With Lowell's history as a textile city, fiber art is quite at home here.
To show quilts is to show Lowell, because it is what Lowell is, where it comes from.
I think it's perfect that it was a textile town and continues to be maybe on a different level these days, but I think it's appropriate that Lowell does a quilt show every year.
Gallery Z and the Uncharted Gallery, both on Market Street, will also be hosting textile art shows. Here's a list of the galleries and their exhibition dates. In this week's Sunspot, Lowell Sun Enterprise editor Chris Scott sits down with Daniel Koh, candidate for Congress.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Chris Scott, the Enterprise editor at The Sun. Thanks for tuning in to this latest edition of Sunspot. We're continuing our series of interviews with candidates for the 3rd Congressional District. Just in case you lost count, there are 10 of them. And with me tonight is Dan Koh. He's the former mayoral chief of staff in Boston to Marty Walsh. He's an Andover native, and he's back in the district, running for the 3rd Congressional District. Dan, thanks for coming in today.
Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
It was short notice, but we got it together.
Honestly,
so we only have 13 minutes. Are you want to just go rapid fire?
Let's do it.
All right.
Let's do it.
Now tell me, how's the campaign going thus far, and how are you trying to keep up interest through the dog days of August? And I think it's about 90 degrees outside today and humid. So.
No, it's going very, very well, thank you. We've been so lucky. We have hundreds of volunteers throughout the district as we speak, knocking doors, getting the message out. And our message is really based around 3 main things. First, making sure we have an economy that works for everyone. Secondly, that everyone has access to good quality, affordable health care. And third, that we stand up to this president, a president who every day it seems like a crazier thing comes out of his mouth that hurts America, but we forget because the next day a crazier thing comes. And it's just not democratic, it's not who we are, and we can never forget that. As someone who's Korean and Lebanese, whose family would have been stopped at the border under this president, I take it personally, and that's why I'm running.
Can we stay on that topic just for 1 second? Yeah. Because when we had the Sun debate out at Devon's a couple months ago, I think you were one of the candidates that stood out that day as a candidate who really criticized President Donald Trump, and you're sticking with that. Tell us, just in your view, today is August 8th, I believe. What's the most outrageous thing he's done over the course of the last couple of days? Like, and I should rephrase that. What has come out of his mouth or come out of the Oval Office that just sent your blood boiling?
Well, I think we see every day what he did to just rip families apart is un-American and quite frankly barbaric. When we see kids wailing because they're not sure if they'll ever see their parents again, and then later reports that literally we've lost track of these kids, that's the complete opposite of what the promise of this country is all about, which is welcoming people, giving people a chance at the American dream. That really, really bothers me. There's so many other things that we could
Can I ask you about one? Sure. What about the acknowledgement now that there was a Russian meeting at Trump Tower?
I mean,
when first it was like about Russian adoptions, right?
It's insane, and the continuing deception that comes from this administration is just absolutely objectionable. This is not Republican and Democrat in my mind, right? This is not a Republican who has views that are different from mine. This is someone who I believe is taking America in a fundamental wrong direction, and I don't think we can ever normalize that behavior, and especially in this Democratic primary, I think we need someone who's going to be willing to stand up to this president every day and acknowledge the fact this isn't normal times.
When you're out in the district campaigning, and you're campaigning 24/7, you're knocking on doors, you're meeting people. I think you ran through all 36 towns at one point early this year or last year. Do you carry that message to prospective voters? And if you do, what's the response that you get?
I do, and it's very positive, and I'd say it's very enthusiastic because people agree. I mean, here's the thing.
I'm talking about Trump. Do people agree with how you view the?
Yes, they do. And here's the reason. Every issue that the Democratic Party needs to stand for, whether it's an economy that works for everyone, whether it's good health care, whether it's making sure that we're environmentally friendly in our society, everything that is going the wrong way is being driven by this guy. This is a person who passed a $1.5 trillion tax cut to corporations in the 1%. This is a person who pulled out of the Paris Climate Accords. This is someone who tried to take away health care from 23 million Americans. So let's double down as Democrats and say, we're proud to be the party of single-payer health care. We're proud to be the party that will pay for free community college. We are proud to be the environmental party that will fight for things like responsible environmental policies. That's what we should stand for, but there's someone standing standing in our way, and that's this president. And we can never underestimate that, especially in a Democratic primary.
And you're feeling that message is resonating throughout the 3rd Congressional District.
People are scared. Some people don't even turn on the TV anymore because they're just so depressed about
my wife is one of them.
Absolutely.
Now, let's talk about the district for a minute. I had the pleasure to spend some time with you a couple of weeks ago off on the side, and you talked about the western front of the district, Gardner, Fitchburg, those communities being really open for all the candidates. And you tried to establish a foothold out there, as have some of the other candidates. Tell us what you've done in that regard and what kind of response you're getting, in some communities that are 60 miles away from Haverhill.
No, that's a great question. The issues of jobs and health care apply to so many parts of this district. And, the western part of the district, which I should say is central Massachusetts.
Right.
It's really
North Central.
Exactly, North Central. They oftentimes feel like they want someone, and I totally understand, a representative for the whole district. And that's what I really wanted to send a clear message by opening up an office in Fitchburg, that if I'm fortunate enough to get elected to Congress, the whole district I will be paying attention to and understanding that there are very different needs in Gardner than there is in Lowell, than there is in Haverhill, than there is in Concord. And we need to make sure that we're thinking about all of it. We're really proud to have 5 offices, all geographically dispersed throughout the district. We spent a whole lot of time in Gardner. We have the endorsements of a number of Gardner City councilors and school committee members, as well as Fitchburg City councilors, and we also have the mayors of Haverhill and Methuen. So we're honored to have this kind of very holistic approach to this, where people from all across the district, elected officials from all across the district, have signed on to our campaign because they understand that the Democratic Party needs a message, and it needs to focus on those core values that we're talking about.
Let's talk about endorsements for a second. I've made fun of all you guys and ladies in this race for all the press releases on the endorsements. I mean, some of them I've just said, I've fallen asleep. But there's a method to this madness, in your view, is there not? And I'm sure with the other candidates as well, that if it's a tight race and it's decided by 200 or 300 votes, or maybe even less, that one endorsement, you take it from there.
Yeah, listen, I think especially in this race, there are so many great candidates and there's so much to choose from. I think voters are looking for people who will be able to advocate or endorse a candidate as a way of understanding, is this someone I want to back? Mayor Fiorentini, for example, has been mayor of Haverhill for almost 16 years. He's been serving that community his entire life. He understands what cities needs, and thankfully he believes that I'm that person who helped get the resources necessary to cities in this district and towns in this district, and that's why he's endorsed me. Councilor Sam Squalia in Fitchburg is someone who cares a lot about the big issues and then also cares deeply about potholes and wants to make sure that we're filling potholes, right? She cares about all different aspects of what it means to be an elected official, and quite frankly, as someone who comes from local government, who believes that all politics is local, I do too. And so for me, those endorsements are validations of what we stand for, and I think for voters, it's saying, okay, this is a person that I can get behind because I really trust that person.
But you mentioned something off air, though, about the help that specific help that 1 or 2 endorsements, could put someone over the top.
Absolutely.
Just talk about that for a second.
Yeah, and so it's one area that is important in that regard is union endorsements. And so I'm about to announce my 25th union endorsement. We're very, very proud.
Does that include the IBW, or is that?
Does.
Okay.
It does. We're very, very proud of that. And the thing about it, these labor unions have felt disrespected for a very long time. They've been fighting for the middle class for centuries. They built the middle class, and now they're under attack, honestly, many times by both parties. And so I think that the Democratic Party needs to get the back of unions, and quite frankly, they're incredibly well organized. And in a race that's 10 ways, in a race where everyone's trying to get people's attention, this is a way to say, okay, here are these organizations who understand that they want a candidate who believes in good jobs and fighting for the middle class, and they can get that message out to their members in a way that I think will be a huge advantage in this race.
So perhaps when I see all those press releases from all you guys, I maybe should pay attention a little bit more to them. Before I came to see you today, your campaign issued a press release about an affordable housing plan that you had just released. Just talk about that a little bit. Sometimes when affordable housing in some of these communities is like the third rail.
Right.
It's some places it's embraced. Other places, as I'm sure you know, it is not.
Right.
It's viewed like a curse. So tell us what your plan hits on to try to address that situation.
And what we're hearing, this was informed by meeting with a number of different experts in housing throughout the district, is that as cities continue to develop, as economic development is so important, we can't forget that the sky-high cost of housing in some areas of this district continues to get worse and going to price people out. We see it in Lowell every day. We see it in Haverhill. We see it all throughout the district. So what I think is is really important is that there's somebody in DC who's constantly aware of that. Economic development and jobs are critical, but let's make sure it's inclusive so that people in Lowell are getting the jobs that they're getting and they're not being priced out of the places that are important. It's a wide range of things, including just collaboration with federal and local officials to create more supply, things like historical tax credits to be able to incent more development of housing. And there's one actually really exciting thing that's being pushed at the federal level called opportunity zones, which basically allows developers to get a little bit of relief in exchange for building more things like housing and office space that I think we need to embrace, because we need to bring that economic development to places like Lowell. We certainly saw how Senator Tsongas and Congresswoman Tsongas focused on Lowell and made it what it is today with good, thoughtful federal policy. And quite frankly, I think we need someone in government who understands that. I saw that from a local level, and continuing that momentum, the great momentum Lowell has.
Sometimes cities like Lowell, the gateway cities, Lowell and Fitchburg and Haverhill, they've complained publicly that they do their fair share when it comes to the distribution of social services, affordable housing opportunity, and they've claimed over the years, and I think rightfully so, that the communities should share more of that burden. Do you share that sentiment as well?
Well, look, I think the bottom line is that we just need to make sure that there are services available for people to get the services that they need. And quite frankly, if you talk to a lot of organizations throughout this district, they know what to do to make people better, to address the issues of addiction. They just don't have the resources necessary to scale the way they need to. Lowell House and Lowell is an amazing example of an organization that has a great program. They know what to do, they just don't have the resources necessary to scale it to the point where they should. And so that's why I think the federal government needs to come in. You know, President Trump said that he was dedicating...
No, unfortunately, we have 2 minutes. Go ahead.
Sure. Yep. National Public Health Emergency funds to the opioid epidemic. Turns out there are $57,000 in that fund. What we need to do is look at how we better resource these local amazing organizations so people can get better.
Okay. When people see you on the campaign trail and they see your name, oftentimes they'll say, hey, that's the guy that used to work for Marty Walsh. And some people may view that as a great benefit, others may not. You've been able to raise a lot of money based on a lot of the connections that you have in Boston and that you've developed in working for the mayor. Just how would you address criticism that some of that money or a lot of that money has come from outside the district?
Yeah, first with the mayor, I'm just proud that he's a local person-to-person politician. He cares about people and getting things done in the district that he represents, and that's what I care a lot about too. With regard to the resources, you know, I'm proud to have the support of family and friends who see my work, think I'd be a good congressman. I'm proud to have the second most raise in the district of anyone in this race, and the most small dollar contributions of anyone in this race, as Chris Lazinski from The Sun reported the other day. And so, you know, the focus really is on knocking as many doors as I possibly can, getting out there. We've got a great team of hundreds of people out there knocking as we speak. I'm going out to knock after this, and I think door after door is how we're going to win this.
All right, so we have 1 minute left. Tell us, what can the residents of the 3rd Congressional District expect from the Koh campaign over the next, what did you say, 27 days?
27 days.
Okay.
It's about hard work. It's about outworking the field. And literally, I think there's so many great candidates in this race. What's the difference that I bring? We want to have someone who's going to be able to stand up to this president and have a unique view on how to do it. As someone whose family wouldn't have existed if for this president, I take it personally. I think we need a new generation of leaders who will fight back and have experience doing so. You know, when the president said that he was pulling out of the Paris Climate Accord, Boston doubled down and said we'd be carbon neutral by 2050. When this president instituted a racist travel ban, we opened up City Hall and we fought back and said people are welcome in City Hall. And finally, I think accessibility is really important. So my cell phone number is 978-2257-455. I believe accessibility is the most important thing. I will be that champion in DC, and I will be accessible to you as well.
That's terrific, Dan. We're going to wrap it up. Thanks for coming in. Good luck over the course of the next 27 days.
Thank you, Chris.
I'll be talking to you.
That's it for this edition of LTC News. You can find us on LTC channels 8 and 99, online at ltc.org, on Roku at LTC Lowell, or get the link on Facebook. I'm Alanna Flood. Thanks for joining us.